afternoon, everybody. Good morning. Good night. I am so glad that you are here with us. My name is Dr. Kesslin with the PhD Consultants, and you are here at the Doing the Doctorate Podcast. You know that we are in a special series called Doctor in Residence, and boy, do we have a good one for you today. But before we get there, let me just remind you to follow, like, share, subscribe to Dr. Kesslin everywhere. I am on YouTube. I am on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn. I may even be on TikTok if you look hard enough. All right. I am so glad that you are here. Our goal is to simply inform and inspire you. If you are considering getting a doctoral degree, or if you are in a doctoral program, we want to encourage you to persist. And so we are here in this series of Doctor in Residence for the Doing the Doctorate podcast. We have some information we're going to share. Today's guest, Dr. Patia Freely, is a recent graduate. Like her, listen, her degree is not even cold yet. She just got it. We're excited that she is here with us. And you're going to learn more about why we're calling this session Landing the Plane. Stay tuned. Hey, Dr. Freely, how are you?
Hi there. How are you doing today, Dr. Kesslin?
I'm wonderful. So excited to have you here for a whole lot of reasons. But you are finished. We don't usually get young, freshly minted doctors on the show. You are freshly minted, and I'm so excited to have you here. So welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. It's my pleasure. So, Dr. Freely, how does that sound, first of all, to hear Dr. Freely, Dr. Patia Freely? What does that sound like? How does that feel to you?
It's still foreign. I always look around and say, who are they talking to? So, yeah, it's still taking some getting used to. It is. I'm still getting used to it.
It's going to take you a moment to feel like you are walking into your name. Yeah. But you have earned it, and I know that you have earned it. You've earned it. Indeed. So let's just jump right in. Tell us about your doctoral journey. Why did you decide to get a doctorate, and what were you thinking you wanted to do with it?
Great question. And I feel like as I finished the program, I became so clear on why I needed to do it. But initially, I was a social worker. My focus has been with youth-focused child welfare initiatives for over the last 15 years. And I ended up doing a youth violence prevention program. I was a project manager for a research study that was housed at the university that I would eventually join their PhD program. And as I was working towards better outcomes for our young people, I got exposed to research and data collection. And I realized that in all the time that I'd done the work that I was doing on behalf of young people, I did not understand research or its impact until I was in the position that I was in. And I became completely fascinated by data and the way that data is used and the way that communities in marginalized groups can be represented or misrepresented in data. And I said, I have to be a part of this. I actually became a part of the data collection team. I was trained by our data collectors, and I said, I need to go further if I really want to be a part of conversations that I'd never been a part of before. I realized that I had a lot of information and a lot of things that I could contribute, but I was never invited to those conversations that really shaped the narrative around the things that I cared about the most, which were youth outcomes and the prevention of youth violence. And so I had a come to Jesus moment one day when someone heard about all of these wonderful things that I wanted to do on behalf of youth and all that I've been doing over the last decade or so, and without missing a beat. And this was another doctorate that said to me, hey, Patia, that's all great and everything, but the types of things that you want to do, I hear your passion and it's great. But he said, you're not even going to get invited to the conversations that are going to shape the things that you want to change unless you get a PhD. It was shocking. And
Wow.
I never thought that, that I would need to pursue a PhD because I've been working so hard in the trenches and been working in grassroots efforts. And I'd done so many initiatives and worked alongside the people for so long. Most assuredly, all that work should translate into being able to get a seat at the table and be engaged in these conversations. But I think that they made a valid point, because after 15 years, no one had invited me to the conversation. But having even just graduated last year, my degree just got conferred last month, I've already been invited to speak about 3 or 4 times to various things that I've been working in this field for over 15 years. So what he said actually rang true.
I say it almost every time someone says to me, why do I need a doctorate? And I'll say, there are certain spaces and certain tables that you will not get invited to without it, especially as a woman or a person of color. Some people will only hear your message if you have reverend or doctor in front of your name, particularly in certain communications. So, it just depends on the work that you're called to do. And sometimes whether you have a title in front of your name. So I totally agree with that person. It doesn't have to be right. I mean, it may not be fair, but it is true. It is true. So tell us about where you ended up in school, what your program was, what your research topic was. And I'll stop. I'll stop there. That was a loaded question, so I'll stop there.
I did end up being invited into the PhD in social work program. I was already a staff member at our university. And so I was working within the School of Social Work. So I was already familiar with people who would eventually become my colleagues soon after that, or my instructors. So that was really interesting. But just kind of making the transition back into being a student full time after having been out of school and obtaining my last degree in 2007. And so it wasn't the plan, but I was really excited to be able to jump in and to really explore an area that I took very personally. Quick story, just as a social worker who worked in community-based organizations, many of us are reliant on grants from grant-making foundations for us to be able to meet our programmatic needs in other areas of our budgets. And I know what it means when we are denied, when our proposals are not accepted. That means that automatically we're going to have to tighten up some things. So instead of being able to serve maybe 100, you will only be able to serve 75 or 50. And it always really weighed heavily on me on what's going to happen to the young people that we couldn't serve simply because we couldn't afford to, because services do cost money. And I really felt very strongly about this because it was very clear on the true implications. It was truly a matter of life or death. And so I became curious about the grant seeking process, specifically regarding the decision-making side of it, because I just felt that it was just kind of this very unclear space that a lot of people had a lot of assumptions about. Some people seem to be more successful at it than others. And it was kind of exclusive. If you weren't kind of in the in crowd that got the funding or a part of the grant makers that were able to make the decisions, you were kind of left out of this process that could have some real strong impact on what you were able to do as an organization. And so I decided to focus on the grant decision-making process of foundation grant makers and grant seekers who focus specifically on youth violence prevention in the city of Chicago. As you may know, Chicago unfortunately does experience an extremely high rate of youth violence and youth loss, as do many other urban centers in our country. And I know that a lot of people are very adamant about, like myself, recognizing that this is not normal, even though it happens very often, and that it can be avoided. But we're going to need some innovative and collaborative ways of addressing this. And I think that our foundation grant making partners can be very instrumental in this because they can be fairly autonomous and they can be fairly nimble, as everyone was able to see during the height of the COVID-19 pandemic. They were able to make very quick decisions and get money into the hands of the people who were able to make the most change fairly quickly. So that let us know that decisions can be made fairly quickly. We don't have to really wait through these long cycles of having to review grants and all of these other things. And so I became very fascinated with specifically the funding that came from grant making foundations. And so what I decided on was to actually ask my questions of those who were the makers of grants and those who sought after grants. And I really wanted to see, well, what's happening in terms of the perceptions in these conversations? How are those who are benefiting from the grant dollars looking at this process versus those who are actually the people that actually distribute the grants? And I came up with some really, really fascinating findings that I think is very unique in the way that we were able to proceed with the research, in that most studies do not include both the grant seeker and the grant maker's perspective, but also that the framework of it all was able to be used in just about any area that seeks out grant funding, whether it be people who are experiencing houselessness, people who are experiencing addiction, people who are in a situation where they are in need of anything that would require advocacy in the inclusion of grant making dollars. So I was really excited to see that we were able to come up with something that's easily replicatable, but also very practical at the end. You're on mute.
Thank you. I said powerful, powerful. I want to remind people that this is the work of doctors. This is what doctors do. And Dr. Freely has done some amazing research. And you need to contact her about sharing her research, about understanding the findings related to grant making. You need to be in contact with her. So poor dog, poor dog. But Dr. Freely, we only have a few more minutes, but the challenges, we entitled this Landing the Plane, right? Tell me about why we would entitle this Landing the Plane as one of the challenges. Now, I happen to know you because you were a client of mine. You are one of my scholars, so I'm extra proud. But Dr. Freely, why would we entitle this session Landing the Plane?
Because this plane was circling and it was on this eternal flight. It was like I was in the Twilight Zone before I had the ability to actually land somewhere. The good thing about someone like me who's had a lot of experience in the area that I care most about is also kind of, I would say, a blessing and a curse, because I'm very clear about what I care a lot about. Most people will notice the passion that I have about my topic when you ask me about it. But the other part about it is, because I've seen it in so many different spaces, it was hard to kind of contain it into one context. So I was over here, I was over there. I could have gone down many different avenues to kind of get to the same destination. But as you know, a dissertation has to be a very focused and a very decisive document. And so I needed help. And I think that one challenge around that was sort of deciding which was the most prevalent thing that I wanted to get out of the research, and that the dissertation was just the beginning of it. I think that initially I thought that I had to get out all of the thoughts. They were all important to me because they all led to, I believed, enhanced youth outcomes. And so I wanted to include everything in there. But what I realized that, well, some of those things were a little tangential and some of those things were maybe secondary, or they came after the fact of some of the things that I would need to explore more richly a little bit later on. And so just kind of getting to the most valid point that would introduce people to this, and then move on to the other aspects of the research a little bit later, or write some papers or publish some secondary articles. And so I really appreciate that, because I think that because I'd been an engaged social worker for so long, I felt like I was compromising on, well, this is important and this is important and it all has to be in there. But if you put too much in, if everything is significant, then that means nothing is significant, right? And so
Ooh.
I really needed.
Wait. If everything is significant, then that means nothing is significant. Hold on. If everything is significant, then that means nothing is significant. That was a powerful I didn't want you to just gloss over that. That's a
Okay.
powerful statement.
Mm.
Let me just ask you, because I'm sure that people will want to get more information from you. So I'm going to ask you for your contact information if you want to share it with the world.
Mhm.
Before we go there,
Okay.
you finally landed the plane. You were circling with your topics and your questions.
Yeah.
You knew you wanted to do youth-based, philanthropic related, grant-funded research,
Yes.
but you needed some guidance. You finally landed the plane and then you took off. Sister girl,
Mm.
you took off. You did that. Leave some pearls of wisdom, just one pearl of wisdom, with someone else who may be circling, like the airplane is in the sky and they can't quite land. They keep going around in a circle. Give us some words of wisdom for someone who may need to land the plane.
Yeah. Yeah. I would say look at your dissertation as a document that it is important. And it is, as you always say, your research does matter, but it doesn't matter to everybody. If you could only leave one significant thought with a person that was just kind of glossing over, if your research could land in the hands of someone that could actually actualize it in the world, but they only had a moment to get one thought from your dissertation, what would you want that thought to be? If you could meet up with your ideal partner, collaborator, institution, whoever that is, if they were to pick up your document and only be able to take one thing away from it and then make it happen, what is that one thing you would want it to be? I think that would be one way to kind of eliminate all of the many things that indeed are all significant, but what is the most significant thing? That can kind of help you to glean in, all right, this is where I really want to focus on. This is what I want to really leave any reader of my dissertation with. And then I can, again, subsequently publish other articles or do other things with other ideas. If
And
you get
you should.
first.
And
Yes.
you
Yes.
should.
Which you should. Yes. Absolutely.
Yeah, that's
Yes.
good.
Mhm.
Doc, where, if you want to share with the world, where can people find you? How can they connect with you to learn more about this research, participatory research? Where
Yeah.
where can they go?
Absolutely, absolutely, certainly. You can connect with me. I'm definitely on LinkedIn at Patia Freely, PhD, and also certainly my new email account, patiaphd@gmail.com. Certainly, and soon to be Dr. P on Twitter. I started that handle before I graduated, but I'm still on there every once in a while. So soon to be Dr. P
Awesome.
on Twitter and on LinkedIn, and as well as Gmail.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you, Dr. Freely. I'm so super proud of you. The plane has landed and it's about to take off again with Dr. Patia Freely. So congratulations to you.
Thank you. Thank you so much for everything that you have been able to instill into this process. I honestly cannot reiterate how much your services have helped me to be in this place today. And I'm deeply grateful to you for it. Thank you, Dr. Kessler.
My pleasure. This is what I do. It's what I love to do. I truly know and believe that research matters. And if I can help people at the highest, at the doctoral level, finish their degree so that their research can get into and change the world, then hey, that's what it's all about for me. For those of you who are watching, thank you so much. I hope you have heard a little something inspirational and informative about landing your plane, landing your plane. If you need help, if you need more support, if you want to graduate and be able to take off again as Dr. Freely is now doing, please reach out to me. I can be found at Dr. Kesslin everywhere: Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, YouTube. I may be on TikTok if you look hard enough. All right. I am with the PhD Consultants. Our goal is to inform and inspire. We want to help you get in, through, and out of your doctoral program while saving time and money. Remember, the doctoral degree, it's not merely a degree of intelligence, it is a degree of persistence. And we are here to help you persist. Why? Because your research matters. Thanks much, everybody. I'll talk to you soon. Love y'all. Love you, mom and daddy. Bye.